talking about what we're going to be working on today. Today, taking a look at your graphic organizer, what's the skill that we are reviewing? Theme. So we have talked about how to determine theme in literature, like in our books, right? Now today we're going to continue that discussion and we're going to see how we can apply the skills that we've already practiced to determining theme in our poems, okay? You determine theme in poetry essentially the same exact way that you determine it in a regular narrative book, okay? But we're going to practice that today. Do you remember how theme was a part of our pre-assessment? Yes, that was one of the skills that we covered in our pre-assessment. You might want to think back to what your score was for theme, right? This is your opportunity to start practicing and trying to improve upon that. Okay. Remind me again, what is theme? Hands. Colton?
The moral or lesson of the story that can, it's not like specific to that story, it can be applied.
Perfect. The moral or lesson that we learn from a story that's not a specific lesson that like maybe that character learned, like it's not like, doesn't include that character's name, doesn't include any plot points, but can be applied to another story. That's exactly right. So we've got 4 questions today that we're going to use to help us kind of guide our thinking and drive us to theme, all right? But before we get into those 4 questions, let's think about Reynard. What do we already know about Reynard? We just read about him right before we read news at 5. What do we already know about Reynard? Grace?
He has dyslexia.
He has dyslexia. What else, Jason?
He's pretty quiet in class.
He's pretty quiet in class. Zantrell?
He plays alto
He
saxophone.
plays the alto saxophone. Thank you. Lily?
And he feels like he has weight taken off of his shoulders because he told everybody about it.
That's right. So we know that he was kind of keeping this big secret, but he has this weight taken off of his shoulders as soon as he shares with everyone about his dyslexia. Jason?
His mom was 17 when he was born.
And what does that show him?
Showing that, and she finished high school. So it showed him persevere through hard times. And he just keeps thinking about his mom and he wants to drop out because of his disability.
Remember that Bitmoji that was on the screen today?
Yeah, it was a boulder.
What was I doing?
He was pushing it.
Pushing the boulder up the hill. That's a representation of perseverance. Colton?
He likes music.
He likes music, right? And so music is like one of the ways that he kind of tries to cope with this learning disability that he has. Good, thank you. Now, let's think about theme with 4 questions and what we can learn from Reynard, okay? Remember, theme is the meaning, moral, or message of the story. It's the lesson that the character is learning and the lesson that we can learn from the character as the reader of the story, all right? So we've got 4 questions. The first one is, when does the character demonstrate a good trait? All right, so we got an example on our paper. Central, you good?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. All right, we got an example filled in here on our paper of when does the character demonstrate a good trait. What do you think I mean by a good trait? What's a trait when we're talking about characters?
Description.
A description. Something that makes you you. What'd you say? A characteristic. That's exactly the word I was looking for. So when in the text does Reynard demonstrate a good trait? Here's how I answered this question. I said Reynard recognizes that his mother never gave up. So this is getting back to what you guys were talking about. Reynard recognizes that his mother never gave up, even when things got difficult for her. Do you think having a baby at 17 and finishing high school is easy?
No.
Heck no, right? It is important that he gives her credit for working hard even when she might have wanted to give up. He seems to be the same type of person. He seems to have the same type of issues, right? Something really difficult where he could potentially just give up and quit, but he doesn't, right? Colton?
Also he shows it when he comes up on the stage, he's the only white person up there, and
That's
they try to tell
That's
him.
Steve. Good potential connection if that was true, but that's okay. Thank you. Jason?
And Gloria has a child and probably to show her that.
Ah, so her theme, that's interesting, and her theme is probably going to be somewhat close to this as well. They should bond over that. That's a great thing for them to connect over and talk about. And Gloria can maybe show him a thing or two. All right, next question that we ask ourselves to determine theme. What's the second question we ask ourselves to determine theme, Evan?
How would you describe how the character is acting?
How would you describe how the character is acting? Reynard has dyslexia, and that causes anxiety for him at school. Why does that cause anxiety?
Because he doesn't like to ask people like what stuff says, and he's tired of people saying like what's wrong with him.
That's exactly right.
Scared that people will see it differently.
Once he reveals what's actually going on. He doesn't want people to think that he has like a mental illness, okay? Despite this anxiety, he decides to stand up in front of his classmates to perform a poem. This seems like a really brave thing for him to do. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And how hard did he work? Did he just throw a poem together and he was like, all right, I'm just gonna stand up and get it over with? No, he memorized it, right? He said he practiced in front of the mirror and got the whole thing all memorized and really planned it out and prepared for it, okay? What'd you say? Because the poet was going to be there and he really wanted to impress Pedro Pietri, who was coming to visit the school, right? So that shows us a little bit about how he is acting. Okay, now our third question. What's our third question, Isaiah?
What can you agree learn from the character?
Okay, so what can we potentially learn from how Reynard is acting and the type of person that he is? Jason?
Persevere even through hard times.
Ah, you're already getting there towards a theme. Very nice. I feel like Reynard has taught me that even if a task presents a real struggle, I should keep on trying, right? We know that what he just did was very difficult for him, but he did not give up. He kept on trying and he kept on practicing, as you said, Sydney. He also showed me that if you have good friends backing you up, it can help you through a difficult situation. Because he got up there and he kind of froze. But what did everybody else do? They encouraged him, right? And Tyrone said, show us what you got. Like, this is your opportunity. That's right, Wesley did. That's exactly right. All right, our last question. What is it, Devlin?
Even when things are, what is the possible theme based on what the reader has learned?
Okay, so I thought about a time in the text when the character shows a good trait, something positive about their personality, a good characteristic. Then I thought about, now how is the character acting currently? Then I started thinking, what can I learn from the character? Now I'm on my last step, as Devlin just read. I'm kind of turning this into, what is a theme statement that the reader can learn from this character going through these experiences in the book? Even when things are difficult, pushing through and accomplishing a goal can define what kind of person you are. Do you think his mom would be proud of him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he pushed through and didn't give up, just like she pushed through when she had him at 17 and didn't give up on high school, okay? Does this make sense so far? Jason, what do you think?
Well, we learned the perspective of his mom.
What'd you say?
Well, we get to the
No, we just get the perspective of the people in the school.
She's not a student.
She's not a student. Okay, I want you to practice this with a partner real quick before I ask you to go off and read and practice it entirely on your own. Let's go back to Steve. All right, so we read about Steve. Steve's the one who wants to be a Broadway set designer, even though
They're moving away. They're moving.
even though they're moving, and he's saying his dream is never going to go away. He can pack it because it's portable. Now, what I want you to do real quick, pick one of these questions. 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Answer one.
Pick one in your mind. Think about how you would answer that question for Steve. Okay, you're gonna share your response with a partner, and then that partner is gonna share their response. Go.
Steve shows like he's like, I don't want to give up on my dream. That's not
What do you mean? It's kind of like a balloon. It's kind of like
But if you let go, then you take it back. So
Steve showing a good role model because
I'll do number 2. How would you describe how this character is acting?
So even
his
though
story, he
his
was
father
saying that,
like gave
he
up on his
lives in,
dream,
like, the best
Reynard,
place
I'm sorry,
ever.
Steve is showing that like
Even
it's
though
still
his-
possible to
like,
hold
even
on
though
to
his
it.
parents knew, he's still not isn't
But
going to
if
give
you
up
let
on
go
like
of your
being
dream,
on
right,
Broadway.
you get it
So he's
back.
acting like
He said what happened to his first
pretty
job?
confident and like sure of
Yeah, I
himself that
didn't
he's
got
never
shot
going to
down,
give up
right?
on his dream.
Someone
He wants to go to
crushed
NYU because that's where he thinks he's going to like have
Someone
the best
popped the
education to be a set
All right, back in
designer.
3,
And he's like very determined that
2,
it's going to happen.
1, 0. Okay, do you think you can go through and answer these 4 questions for a different character?
Yeah.
Great. I would like you to try that out today. The next 2 characters whom you are going to read about in the book are Sheila and Janelle. That is pages 133.
Have we already learned about you?
Yes, and Tyrone. You're gonna and you'll hear Tyrone's responses. So Sheila we've already read. Janelle we've already read. So we already know a little bit about both of those characters. So you can really go in depth here with answering these questions. But based on their more recent narratives and poems, I want you to pick one of the 2 of them to analyze. So on the back side of your paper, where it says character name, You're doing Sheila or Janelle. You're not doing both. You pick whichever one you want, okay? That is pages 133 to 145 that you are reading today and trying to analyze one character, either Sheila or Janelle. Are we clear?
Yep.
Go get started. Thank you.